everybody, and welcome to another episode of Faith in Your Community. I'm Gayla Bartlett, your host, and excited today to have for the first time on Faith in Your Community the pastoral care Reverend Douglas Vooys from Maple Street Community Church. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thanks, Gayla. It's wonderful to be with you this morning.
Thank you for coming. So you've been at Maple Street Church now, what, a year?
Yeah, I just had my year anniversary beginning of June.
Well, welcome. We're excited to have you here. So your position at Maple Street is you are in charge of pastoral care, correct?
I'm a minister of pastoral care, and so that's one of the portions of my job. And I work collaboratively with Reverend Pam Cochran, and so we both provide pastoral care, but it is the focus of my position.
Wonderful. So if you want to tell the viewers your background and what led you to Maple Street, I think that's an interesting story because you have a different background as a reverend than most people do. So I think that's pretty exciting. So if you would like to tell us a little bit about yourself, that would be great.
Sure. I'm originally from New Jersey and lived in the Midwest for quite some time, and then came back to the East Coast again. I have been in Massachusetts since the early 2000s. I was a social worker.
That's it. Yep.
For 5 years. And then always had a call for ministry, when I found the UCC church or the Congregational Church, realized that there was a place for me in this church and in this denomination, and that they trained up ministers who were gay in the denomination that I was part of in my youth. That was not an opportunity for me. And so in finding my place within this denomination and the fact that they trained up gay ministers, I just found myself being led further and deeper into my call to ministry. And so I entered into ministry through going to seminary in 2012 and being ordained thereafter. And I also am chaplain over at Beverly Hospital and have my dual call as chaplain as well as minister of pastoral care here at Maple Street Church. And as we said earlier, have been here now for about a year. So it's been an exciting road.
Absolutely. And I think listening to your sermons and seeing how you interact with the congregation, you having a background in social work is amazing. And what a blessing to the church and what a cool piece. I think it's great for a pastor to have that background because you have so many different skills that you bring to the plate that not somebody wouldn't necessarily think that a pastor would have. But I think it definitely, your patience and your endurance and the way that you connect with everybody from the youth to the elderly, I think is just commendable and amazing. So I thank you for that. And I just think that's such a cool thing to have in your pocket that you can bring out, and being a chaplain as well. And dealing with people in their pain and in their anguish or things that you see at the hospital, I think definitely.
Yeah, there's definitely an integration of those life experiences, and there's a different sort of way to kind of bring all those things together. And so there's a beauty to that. And so it's an exciting way to be able to form ministry and to be able to bring that to pastoral care. And so it's been a very rich experience, I believe, for myself, but also for those that I minister to.
Absolutely. So now that we are in stage 2 of COVID, I know as a pastor, you've had to deal with things in a different way than you have before, and looking at things through different glasses and vision. How has your position at the church changed, and what have you had to do differently now that we're in these different times?
Well, it's an exciting time because, with this, it challenges us to learn and to challenge ourselves to do things in different ways. Part of the sacredness of pastoral care is often being in the presence of someone and being able to look into their face. And oftentimes it's looking into their eyes, and sometimes it's that compassionate touch of touching someone's arm or hand or being with someone. Well, in these days, we're not with people. We're visiting in different ways. And so the challenge has been utilizing electronics, utilizing telephones. And so it's very, very different because you're not looking into someone's eye when you're on the telephone. you're listening for different tones within voices. And so you're using that listening skill that you have of being with someone, but you're using it a lot more differently by being on the phone with someone. It's not to say that before we weren't making phone calls and checking in with people, but we weren't relying solely on the telephone as being a tool for pastoral care, where we're doing it much more frequently now and checking in more frequently by using that tool. We're also able to use like Messenger on Facebook. We're able to use Zoom. We're able to use different platforms that are available to have some of those intimate conversations. And in those tools, we're able to look more into faces and be able to have some of those conversations and see what emotions are there, which is helpful for providing pastoral care. But all of these tools have been helpful in regards to bridging some of those gaps. The difficulty within our congregations is that there are people in the throes of all of this who have been isolated at home.
Right.
Been very much alone, dealing with loneliness, dealing with fear, some dealing with those comorbidities of illnesses that may not be directly related to COVID, but are struggling with, keeping up with their care around heart disease, dealing with, dialysis or kidney functionings, or all these other things that are still, important to follow up with, housing concerns, finances, food insecurities, all of these sorts of concerns that are just piling up and are concerns and cause fear.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone is isolated at home and they have a partner or they have a spouse or they have someone with them, there's someone who they're connected with, at least they're in a relationship with someone. But then if there's someone at home who does not have a partnered relationship, those days get extremely long. And so to help provide those sorts of senses of community. And so I must say that within the network of church and being church to one another, we have that wonderful sense of community where we have deacons that also step out and help to bridge pastoral care by making phone calls as well and sending cards and being that web of connectedness to those who also need to feel that sense of someone looking out for them and being present to them in these times of feeling isolated, alone, and fearful. And so we really work hard to being that neighbor to one another, because being a neighbor to one another is very important. And so we try to do that within our community, but then also the larger community of Danvers, as well as we see those needs that arise within our community at large.
Which is great. And now that, we can't do our face-to-face in church, you've had to take a different role when you do your sermons and when you do your Sunday services. How has it been for you transforming into doing Zoom calls after church and then doing your sermon like you did this past weekend right in front of an iPad and streaming it live on Facebook? So how has that been for you as a challenge?
Well, you use the word challenge, which I think is a very, very apt word for that. And it's that relearning again. There's something very different about preaching to an empty sanctuary and preaching into a camera like we're speaking to one another right now.
Yeah.
It's something that's a big adjustment, and it's very, very different. When there's people there, living people that are reacting and responding to the good word as you're preaching it, and you're trying to touch hearts and lives with what it is that you're saying, there's this sort of response that you get from warm bodies. And when you're to an iPad, you're just not getting it. It's very, very different. And so it's been something that's been a big adjustment. And so that part of our worship is for community. It's something that gets published, as you see, and it goes out on live streaming, and it goes out to the larger community. Then the intimate part of what our worship is and our community within the church is we meet after church for a time of sharing joys and concerns and being in community with one another by using Zoom. And what we do is we share what's going on in each other's lives, and people gather that way and share what is heavy on each other's hearts or where our joys are.
Mm-hmm.
Times where in this community gathering, we are laughing with one another, or there's people sneaking outside with their cameras showing what's growing in their garden because of flowers that are growing.
Yeah.
And we're laughing and we're sharing and joy and encompassing all of these things that are part of life. And so there's that larger community that we're ministering to, those that out, but then there's those things that happen within, which is the intimate part of what church is. And so we're trying to balance both of those things, which are so important in providing pastoral care. And there's other ways we minister to that internal sort of need within our church through our prayer and table, which happens as an alternative worship on Tuesday nights. We have Bible study that we do on a Wednesday, which is that intimate sort of gathering, which is open to whomever would like to join us. It's not a closed group, and so you can contact the church if you would like to join in those sorts of gatherings, because everybody's welcomed. But we take care of what's happening internally by caring for one another, but then there's that streaming that goes out. Right. So the larger community is being ministered to as well.
Which I think is wonderful. And now, Maple Street has been on DCAT for a while with their services being filmed and then held here at DCAT, which is great. And you can also get the church services on the website and also on Facebook. But I've got to show you something, and I don't think I've showed my viewers before. So this little bag I carry with me. Where's my camera? Okay. Carry this with me. It's actually from Nepal that some of my team members gave to me at work one day. And inside it, I keep with me, just in case I need reminders visually, because I'm visual. I have my wooden cross, which was handmade. And I think sometimes, and it has a heart, for all of us, sometimes it's nice to have a visual, because sometimes I just sit in the car and I'll just hold on to it and just do my prayers, or just get some positive energy if it needs, I need to motivate myself or something. But I think it's nice for some of us that we carry it with us. So I need to carry my cross with me when I'm out and about. So I think I've learned that as a coping mechanism throughout all this. And I know that, you and Pam have been working with everybody and the youth. I know you're not our youth pastor, but you are tremendous with the youth as well, which is great. And I think that's, again, thanks to your social work background.
Yeah, I do get to connect with the youth from time to time and build some relationships. That's not the focus of my ministry, right. But pastoral care is for all generations.
Right.
So there's times where I connect with youth. There's times where I connect with families. There's times where I connect then with the elderly who are our generation that oftentimes are invisible. Because if you think, sometimes our elderly end up in homes that are not that are not always accessible to coming to worship and getting right. back and forth. And so by going and meeting in places where they are and bringing church to them, bringing communion to where they are, bringing prayer to where they are, listening to their stories, and allowing them to realize that they are a valued part of church and that their stories matter and that they are heard, is priceless, and allowing them to realize that Maple Street is not just a building, and it's right. not just an address, and it's just not one location, because Maple Street is people, and people are made up of just different places that are extended throughout the larger community. And so I value the fact of being able to stop and to listen and to hear stories.
Which is wonderful. And Maple Street has a lot of stories and a lot of history. So it's great to hear the stories. And we have new members coming in, which is wonderful. And pretty soon, hopefully, there'll be baptisms again. Maybe stage 3 or stage 4. But you can even do those via Zoom. I know we can be very creative with baptisms in Zoom.
We're being very creative. Yeah, this calls for creativity.
Absolutely, and out-of-the-box thinking. So this past Sunday, Maple Street, due to Pride Month, which is very exciting, and several places throughout Danvers raised the pride flag, which was wonderful to see. They're all throughout the Danvers community and the North Shore. all the different churches, all different buildings, fire stations, lots of public buildings have their pride flag raised. So this Sunday was the first time Maple Street had put theirs up there. So we're excited about that.
Yep. We raised the pride flag on Sunday, which was a wonderful experience to be able to participate in doing that. And it was just a message to the community that we are part of the community and expressing our pride and being able to share in that community message of welcome and inclusion and just demonstrating that Maple Street is open and affirming and that our welcome is to all, and that this is a safe place for people to come and to worship, and that all are welcomed here. And so it was exciting to participate in raising that flag. And I know it's been the work of the Danvers Committee for Diversity and Inclusion throughout the years, but also this year there was a huge push to be able to get the pride flags throughout the town of Danvers. Mm-hmm. I worked really hard on that. And so I am a member of that committee and have been working with them. I wasn't specifically working on that portion of the committee's work. And so I certainly applaud their energies and their efforts. And it's wonderful to drive through town and to see so many flags up, as well as businesses that have made energies and efforts to put flags up to commemorate Pride Month.
Which is wonderful.
Yeah, and it's exciting.
It's very exciting. And also, we had the protest in Danvers, the peace protest, the last week or the week before. Yep. And a lot of people from Maple Street were there and participated.
Exactly. And it's wonderful to be able to take that stand and to realize that racism has no place within our society, yet we need to stand in solidarity with those that face it each and every day. And so, driving around town and seeing the signs of Black Lives Matter are equally exciting to see that statement that this is a safe place for people of all colors, as well as, equally as exciting as seeing the pride flags up, that people realize that that this is a community that cares for others and doesn't stand for racist behaviors or is willing to call it out. So yeah, there's a new page that's turning, and hopefully we all can stand in solidarity to help move things forward.
It's wonderful. Yeah. So anything exciting and new coming up on Maple Street Church that we should know about?
Well, what we're doing is continually looking at what is it going to mean to be able to come back and join together face to face.
Right.
And so we continually look at how we can do that in a safe way. And so we're working in committee, looking at developing policy to be able to pull that together and to do that to be inclusive as all people, but also lifting up the safety and security of all people, because we have a vulnerable population.
Right.
When we lift up people's vulnerabilities, it has to be safe for all people. And so, with the summer months and things being so pleasant outside, it kind of changes us from those phone calls. And it changes us from this sort of format, because we could do visits now, pastoral visits on porches. We could at a distance, and we can do them in driveways, and we could do them in backyards.
Right.
We could do small gatherings for like a prayer and table, alternative worship, or a Bible study, on the lawn, separated, and just doing it in a new and safe way. And so I think that's the beginning of new things, of just kind of testing the waters a little bit. And so I'm really excited about that, because I like being able to look in someone's face when I'm spending that sacred time together. I'm very appreciative of all these platforms that we were able to use, and they've been a godsend in enabling us to remain connected. But in this time of being able to finally look someone in the face
Mm.
pray together, and to be able to be joined as community in small ways. I think that's going to be a really bright time together.
Wonderful. Well, I'd like to thank you so much for giving us so much of your time today. I know you're busy working on all kinds of magic there at Maple Street Church, so thank you so much. And everybody, make sure you come back and visit us next time as we talk to some other amazing and wonderful faith leaders here in the Danvers and North Shore community. As always, everybody, make sure you stay safe, and we'll see you next time on Faith in Your Community. Thank you so much.